Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Zbcn network. Now we can see in the last 2 days we have pumped extremely nicely. Right. In fact, if we go on to the 4 hour chart, yeah, we can see in the last 20 or so hours mainly, we have made nice moves, right? From this bottom over here, right? If we go like this to right now, we are up 50%. And even at one point, we were roughly at 55, 56%. So a nice, huge pump to the upside. We did call out the buys in the Discord community. So highly recommend joining the private community so you know when to be buying and selling your cryptos. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, right? Super excited, right? We know for the last few days, this thing has just been kind of selling off slowly, right? We talked about in the videos how there was zero confirmation of us ever going to the upside. And the only time we had some type of potential reversals is when we were here, right? When we were here, when we were creating these higher highs consistently on this time frame, on the 4 hour, boom, right? Boom and boom. We had a nice burst to the upside. And we did say, listen, right, it is very unlikely, usually the way crypto goes and pumps, that when it pumps this way, that is just going to kind of respect it and go sideways and diagonally and higher up, right? You can see that we went flatline for roughly a day or two, and then we sold off, and we just continued to sell off consistently. Consistently, we were just selling off. At no point was there any big confirmation that we are going to continue to go to the upside. The closest thing we had was this big daily candle on the 23rd of June, right? On the 23rd of June. But this big daily candle was after we broke a huge support zone, right? We broke below it, right? And for me, all this simply was us trying to reclaim territory, right? Reclaim territory, but we failed. We failed drastically. And then in fact, by the time the weekly candle finished, this was a huge bearish candle, right? The daily was good. The start of the week was great. But by the time the week finished, boom, right? We sold below and crashed a good amount, right? From let's just say at this point, let's just be fair. From here to here, we've gone down another 46%. So it's a big difference, right? It is a big difference. Now, last video, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about, even just using the Fibonacci zone, that we are actually at a great area to potentially start dollar cost averaging. Because the reality is we took it from the top to a relevant bottom. Now, the reason why I call this the last relevant bottom and not something like this or this is because this is pretty much when everything started to officially change momentum and start to rally, right? Going back down all the way here, for me, that was just unfair, right? This territory should not be really relevant at all, especially that we pumped so high, right? That for me, it just makes more sense having it from this perspective, right? And we're talking about how we're in a 78 to 88% zone and how honestly, it's a good time to dollar cost average. And I hope some of you guys started to do that, right? Like I said, in the private community, we did call out buys. So we are up roughly already that 50% because we did buy on this in this area somewhere more or less. And of course, that means we are reaping the benefits right now. For me, I'm going to be looking at how this closes on the daily, right? I kind of want Zbcn network to close like this or even stronger, okay? Because the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, despite this big strong pump, right, this could always still lead downwards if we do not respect certain areas, okay? We are still below this big zone, right? We're still below this big zone, which I do believe will break out of it sooner than later. And of course, we are, as of right now, above this zone over here. So we really want to close above 0.0034, generally speaking, because then that's going to give us a good bounce back opportunity, right? So even if we do pull down, we shouldn't pull down too much further. And then we should be looking to be reclaiming the next big support. Okay. Now, With this type of break, this is a momentum shift, right? This is a momentum shift. We do have bullish confirmation because we did finally have some type of close for the first time higher than, you know, our other highs in the first time in forever, right? Unless something happens in the last couple of hours where we tank back down 30%, right now everything is looking extremely, extremely good. Okay. We can see that even when we had resurgences here, right? When things started to consolidate again, they were just consistently creating lower and lower and lower highs, right? Oh, a little bit surge, but still a lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, pretty much equal, right? Lower, 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 right? It is now for the first time, right? We're getting higher, higher, higher. So, you know, it is a shift in momentum. And, obviously you have to do what you want to do. But if I were you, I'd probably look for like a 10 to 20% pullback to try to get in. 20% might be too much, maybe like an 8 to 10%. Um, Obviously, if you have fear of missing out of the move, you could always just technically buy in, but just be cautious that this is not full big confirmation that we are going to be literally just starting to explode. Now, overall, I'm still super bullish on this project, whether or not this is the literal reversal. Okay. Whether or not this is the literal reversal, I am still ultimately very, very bullish on this project. And I do believe it is going to do very, very well. For me, right? For me, we are going to be looking at some zones where I want for us to take out. Obviously, we talked about this support and resistance, so we're claiming that. But after that, I'm going to be looking to see how we react ultimately off of 0.0065 because there is an institutional daily candle here. So I do want to see how we're going to react off of there. But generally speaking, right, we should be doing well. We go to something like coin market cap, right? And we go search up Zbec network, Zbec, boom. You can see that we rank 150 in the world, 0.0036 in price, 307 million market cap. We've gone up 41%, 200 million, sorry, 200% in the last 24 hours, right? So we're at 61 million volume. And if we go to something like Solana, we could actually see that our holders were going down for a while, right? People were selling off, people were selling in the reds most likely, and then boom, up 500 holders. So a lot of people just got in, right? A lot of people just got in, and any holders we lost over the last few days, we just regained them in a couple of hours. Okay. This is why it is important to understand technical analysis, and this is why it's important to be listening to people that know what they're talking about. But yeah, ultimately, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know what you guys are going to do. Where do you guys think Zbec Network will end up? And I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.